Right. Still have our lovely music playing.
Yeah. Just a minute.
There we go. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Brian Ward, and I am a territory manager here at Google Cloud. I'm thrilled that you could all join us here today for what will no doubt be an informative and thought-provoking webinar led by our esteemed Google Cloud partner, WALT Labs. By the end of this morning's session, we hope that you will not have only enhanced your understanding of WALT Labs, but that you also feel compelled to embrace the opportunity of working with Google Cloud Active Assist, Recommendations API, and Security Command Center. So just a few housekeeping items before we begin. The Q&A function is open throughout the session, so please feel free to ask questions. We'll address as many as we can during the Q&A section at the end. If we can't get to all of the questions, we'll follow up with an FAQ and a recording of the session itself. The Q&A function is located at the bottom right corner, and it looks like either 9 dots or a bunch of shapes. And also just to mention that all attendee microphones and cameras will remain switched off for the duration of this morning's session. So I would now like to introduce you to Alex from the WALT Labs team, who will now kick off the webinar. So over to you, Alex.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. As Brian mentioned, my name is Alex. I'm a senior account manager here at WALT Labs. Been in and around this ecosystem for quite some time now, so looking forward to getting stuck in and speaking with you all today, obviously on the Q&A section. But yeah, looking forward to getting to know you better, looking forward to presenting what WALT Labs offer, but also a dive into obviously the Active Assist and SEC as well. Bearing in mind that it's quite a large topic, so we'll be doing what we can to share as much information as possible. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. So that's a brief introduction to myself. I'll pass over to Morgan for an introduction of himself, and then we'll move on to the agenda.
Okay, so I'm Morgan Atkins. I'm the Data and AI Practice Lead for WALT Labs, and I'll be guiding you on this this tour of Active Assist today.
Thank you very much. Can you jump on to the next slide for me, Morgan? Fab. So not going to delve into this one and take up the majority of everybody's time on this webinar this morning, but I'm going to give you a brief overview of who WALT Labs are and essentially where we sit in this ecosystem with Google Cloud. So again, we are obviously WALT Labs. We have I've been partnering with Google Cloud now for around 8 years in this premier partner ecosystem, and recently joined forces in EMEA. So we were actually based over in Houston, Texas, but we've hit the EMEA markets, and we're really here to sort of disrupt and support Google Cloud customers and making sure that they have the best approach to spend for the technology and to the investment that they've made. And we do this via resale, via professional services, and via our support mechanisms, which I won't go into that much detail now. We have been, like I say, a premier partner for 8 years and have specialisms in infrastructure modernization and data analytics. And we are very heavy in the generative AI space at the moment. So looking at those proof of concepts, proving out the concept of AI, and also establishing use cases and thereafter. So very intertwined, working very heavily with Brian and the team over at Google. And yeah, looking forward to taking you on a little journey today. And yes, like I say, please make this as interactive as possible. Please use the Q&A function. And yeah, so do you want to jump onto the next slide, Morgan? Fantastic. So very proud of myself that I managed to use a QR code today. If at any point you want to reach out to us, you want to have this no obligation discussion around anything that we talk about today or around the generic partner ecosystem, please do just take a scan of the QR code. There's a very light form on the end, and we'll be in touch with you to get something set up. So very high level of the agenda we're going to go over today. We've done the introductions. We're going to go through to what is Google Cloud Active Assist, run through the Recommendations API, in specific to the cost optimization strategies, as that's on everyone's agenda at the moment, is really securing those costs and bringing them down. Exploring the Security Command Center, which in essence enhance your security posture in the cloud. Again, another vital topic, security and cost optimization seem to be coming up on every conversation at the moment. So it's a great obviously topics to be discussing today. Integrating Recommendations API and SEC is the final topic. Then we'll run through some real world use cases and have a Q&A session at the end. So yeah, I will pass over to yourself, Morgan, to sort of kickstart.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Alex. So yeah, as I said, welcome to Active Assist, and welcome to our webinar. We'll try and give you a guided tour of what Active Assist is, what it does, what it covers, and how you can start using it inside your existing workflows. So at its core, Active Assist is a collection of tools designed to optimize cloud operations, but really it's more than that. It's a philosophy of proactive cloud management, so helping you to reduce costs, enhance performance, improve security, and even prioritize sustainability. So making sure that we're using less and optimizing for better usage, not just from a cost perspective, but from a sustainability perspective to improve the planet for our future generations. So with Active Assist, you're not just managing a cloud, you're really optimizing for efficiencies, for security, and for sustainability. Think of it as an assistant sort of working around the clock, a full team of cloud experts that are working around the clock to make your cloud operations more efficient and ultimately cost less to finance's bottom line. So for those of you who don't know, Active Assist is broken down into these 6 categories, these recommendation areas. So we have cost, security, performance, reliability, manageability, and sustainability, which I've already mentioned. So Active Assist analyzes your cloud resource usage and provides recommendations for reducing costs. And we'll go into a little bit of how and the kind of data that comes out from a cost perspective and how you can really leverage Active Assist with inside existing FinOps workflows or cost optimization workflows, but also with inside engineering workflows to give better insights into how much resources are costing and what the impact of changes are across the business. From a security perspective, it's proactively, so Active Assist is proactively helping to mitigate security risks, and it does this by recommending configuration changes with inside your running workloads that can reduce any potential attack vectors. There's things like open ports or IAM permissions. And again, we'll go into a little bit more detail around security as well. So next is performance. So security and cost is one thing to talk about when we're looking at optimizing for the bottom line, but often performance is a key metric in what affects how much resources in the cloud costs, because cloud infrastructure is infinite with an asterisk, infinitely scalable, and as long as you have a credit card with a large enough limit, you can keep spending. So performance is really key to keep those costs down, to understand what's being used and how it's being used, and making sure that it's being used efficiently. So Active Assist really aims to boost the performance of the cloud resources and the workloads that are running therein. Using predictions and automation, it prepares the infrastructure to meet application requirements, not just now, but in the future as well. So using historical data and various methods to predict how much resources a workload will require in the future, and then make suggestions to change that moving forward. And then from a sort of reliability standpoint, Active Assist also focuses on improving the availability and dependability of the cloud resources. So it's all well and good having an infinitely scalable infrastructure, but if it's constantly going down and you're constantly having to spend time and money and resources on right sizing or doing disaster recovery, then it's really not working for you in the best sort of way. So how Active Assist really achieves this is through various health checks, which typical workloads within inside GCP will have some kind of health checking and auto-scaling functions, depending on the workloads. But what Active Assist aims to do is really centralize that information and give you sort of the business continuity and the disaster recovery recommendations for those critical workloads. So Active Assist really enables a comprehensive approach to cloud optimization, helping you to make smarter decisions and get the most out of your cloud investments. So I want to sort of keep it sort of high level of how those 6 recommendations, those 6 categories really get consumed by the users that are gathering the insights. And there's various personas of people that may be wanting the insights, whether it's finance or whether it's an infrastructure director, or whether it's a developer trying to understand the impact they're having on any changes that are being made. So really, let's talk about how Active Assist offers these powerful recommendations. So it as a whole, so the Active Assist dashboard, and I'll show you some examples of what that might look like in the console in a second. But it's essentially a single dashboard that centralizes all the information about cost and reliability and performance into one place that provide actionable recommendations, not just telling you that there's a problem, but showing you how to resolve that issue and what the impact of that change will have on your infrastructure. So there's 2 main ways that I want to just cover before we go any further about how these recommendations are consumed. So the first is the recommendation hub. So this is if you go into the console inside GCP and you search for Active Assist, you'll be taken to the recommendations hub. And it's really the centralized location for managing and optimizing any of your cloud operations inside an organization or a project. And it brings all of those recommendations together, as I said, and allows you to take action in the console for a specific change. And what it also allows you to do is socialize that information. So there are share functions that allow you to filter the types of recommendations inside the hub, and then maybe share that with a colleague or provide insights to a C-level exec that just wants to understand a bit more about the cost of the cloud and the running workloads therein. And obviously, if there's not all that information is being gathered into the hub, there's not just one place to go and find this information. So it's all backed by the Recommender API that is really baked into the majority of services that Google Cloud offer. So as well as the hub recommendation hub, you will be offered in context recommendations. So these are recommendations that can be found inside the service panel, inside the console, that give you insights on a specific workload and how changing that configuration, whether it's reducing the size of the VM or it's changing the ports that are accessible, or changing the permissions on an IAM service account, what impact that will have on the workload, but also from a security and compliance and cost perspective, what impact of not doing that will have. So there's many different options, at least from a UI perspective. So having a web-based user interface, it's you can go to the centralized location with Recommendation Hub to find a single dashboard with all the recommendations for a given scope, or you can, as a cloud engineer or as a developer, see those recommendations directly in context when you're building out services inside GCP. So here's an example of the Cloud Assist dashboard. So you'll get a summary inside GCP that shows you all the recommendations, and obviously for the finance people in the room, showing you the top ways that you can save money inside your account and make changes quickly to start saving, hundreds, if not thousands, a month on these workloads. I have a customer that annual spend is north of $1 million, and they, through changing of VM sizes and hacking resources within existing infrastructure, they were able to reduce their monthly bill by $4,000. So they're really small changes that can kind of help you reallocate the resources that you're already spending somewhere else. And these sort of insights really, before something like Active Assist existed, it would be the job of a data engineer or a finance team to export all of that data from invoicing or from the billings console, analyze that themselves, understand what they're looking at. Obviously, finance aren't necessarily technical to understand how all these resources are being used, but they would need to analyze all of that information and then understand, okay, if I make this change, then it will have X impact. But now, obviously, you have the Active Assist Hub, and you can just go straight into the console and say, okay, well, there's a handful of recommendations that I want to at least have a second opinion on, and dive a bit deeper into, okay, well, does shutting down these services make sense? Does reducing the footprint of these services make sense? Or, are we preparing for a spike in usage, and therefore we're preparing for it, and it perhaps doesn't make sense, but at least there's the start of a journey that you can take to really optimize across all 6 areas. So this is an example of the hub, and this is a really good example because it hits 5 of the 6 key areas that the Active Assist covers, and then we've got some fairly juicy spend that can be saved month over month. An example of in context. So this is a test environment that was run obviously specifically for this webinar. But here's an example of where you can see those recommendations coming in context. So we're inside the IAM panel inside GCP. And for those of you perhaps not so technical, this is just where we add permissions for users or service accounts to be able to interact with the various services inside GCP, whether that's a web server or a database or any of the resources that can be deployed into GCP. This is where we allow users and service accounts to be brought into it. And all this recommendation is saying that is there is a handful of user accounts that are over permissioned, and we can talk about what that means later on, but essentially they've been given too much access. So from a security perspective, when we're looking at zero trust, we don't want to be giving people the keys to the house when they just need access to the letterbox or the garage, right? Borrow an analogy. But hopefully that shows an example of how those recommendations are always on in the background. They're always being generated by the Google Cloud Platform, and it's just how you're interacting then with those recommendations that funnels you, whether you want to be making the changes directly here because you have a good solid understanding of what the recommendation is, or whether you would bring it back to the hub and then maybe socialize the information with a security team or the cloud engineers. Super. Oh, excuse me. Okay. We'll move on to, apologies. Tell me it's flu season. Okay, so we teased all the way through that cost optimization and obviously security as well, but really cost optimization and the strategies used with Active Assist is really about understanding usage and what you have been using over the last 3 to 6 months, what you're expected to use in terms of resources in the next 6 to 12 months. So, taking a deeper dive really into the cost optimization strategies, the key areas of focus for Active Assist are really around consumption of resources and how then we can commit those resources commercially with Google. So quite an easy way to save money for an easy way to save money with resources that are going to have consistent spend over a given period are committed use discounts, so CUDs. So any long-term workloads that are running within inside GCP, you can predict the spend expected to come out of that within the next 12 to 3 years, for instance. And then you can say to Google, okay, well, we're going to commit to spending this money with you anyway. Will you give us a small discount on all of our resources over that time, because you know that it's continuous revenue. So before Active Assist, what you'd have to do is, again, understand the usage, understand what CUDs are available. And this is, working with perhaps a partner or with the Googlers themselves to understand your cloud usage. Sorry. And it's quite a manual, tedious process, right? Understanding what your usage is, understanding what's available in terms of commitments, and then being able to commit to something that you perhaps are unclear about what the usage may be in the future, right? Because you haven't gone through the process of analyzing what's come before to really predict a solid foundation of what's to come. But with Active Assist, all that's done for you, right? Your usage patterns are being analyzed constantly. It's that team of cloud experts really that's working in the background, gathering all that information and then making suggestions like CUDs that says, here's a workload that's been running for a year. It's consistently running. It's running performantly. It doesn't have any issues. If you feel that that's going to continue to run, for the next 1 to 3 years, consider using this discount, right? All of these recommendations are advisory, so ultimately you hold the ultimate decision of whether or not to move forward with them. But what Active Assist will also do is give you the impact of making those commitments, right? Cost calculators and an understanding of how much you may save just by committing to spending that over a given period. Apologies. Some of the other ones then. So VM type machines recommenders is the gold standard really for these sort of utilization recommendations. Having an understanding of what's being used. Are you using all of it? Are you using 80% of it? Are you using 90% of it? If you're not, we can drop the size of that VM. We can change the configuration so that you're using a higher percentage of a smaller amount. So then you're spending less overall on the cost of that infrastructure. And there's a few others then. Say the ones that we have here are idle VMs. So often developers love to hop into hyperscalers and GCP specifically, right? Spin up using the command line, maybe a handful of VMs or services or resources to do a specific task. And I'm definitely I'm the culprit when it comes to this sort of thing. Spin up an initiative, spin up a POC, demo product X, whether it's a compute VM or it's a MySQL instance or a spanner, and then forget about it, right? They haven't had there's no change process that goes around it. There's no infrastructure as code. It's all done in the command line. It's all ClickOps. They've moved on from the initiative because holidays are coming up, right? They've gone away for Christmas. They've forgotten about the instance. And then it's just sat there idling. It's not doing anything. It's not providing any value. It's not generating revenue for the organization, but it's still consuming resources within inside GCP. Active Assist will be able to identify idle resources and highlight them to say, well, this one hasn't been used in 3 weeks. You should probably consider shutting it down. And it may only be $10, $15 a month, but if you've got that across your entire organization, that soon racks up really quickly. And the last one I'll mention, and we'll move on, is obviously this the Cloud SQL recommendations, which is a feather in the cap for an automatic system that can externally give recommendations on your database performance. But again, the team of experts behind, the virtual team of experts that's behind Active Assist is constantly gathering information about the utilization of cloud resources that are being assumed, specifically then around Cloud SQL. And all of those insights are then being drawn into Active Assist to be able to provide recommendations on how larger instances, perhaps because they were poorly scoped, may be consuming more resources than are necessary. And again, like our idle VM or VM type recommender, we can say you're using 50% of X, you should probably look to reduce X down to half that and consume a higher percentage of a smaller amount. Just again, over time, the pounds, look after the pennies and the pounds look after themselves. That really does rack up when you're making small incremental improvements. So, organizations that follow these recommendations, like right sizing or idle VMs, could achieve immediate cost savings, right? Because making a change to a VM that in an ideal scenario where that instance can be restarted, that impact is seen immediately. It's not in 3 months' time when you've done, a change request that goes through a whole process, and then had various engineers look over the problem. You can say, I'm confident that this change is going to make a positive impact. Let's make the change. Let's initiate the workflow to make that happen. And you can see in the next statement that's coming from Google or your resale partner, a decrease in the overall spend for that particular workload. And that's money that you can reallocate to do, more better initiatives. You can go and explore AI because you've saved all of this money by optimizing the low-hanging fruit. And obviously, then if you're working with WALT Labs, you can use all of that to get cash back and work with us to do professional services. So just changing gears slightly, we'll talk about the Active Assist in the context of Security Command Center. So while today details don't fully explore SCS, it's important to note that the role in defending sort of Google Cloud assets and how Security Command Center integrates into Active Assist. So from a security perspective, across the 6 categories, all of the security insights are coming from SCC, so the Security Command Center. So this is talking about over-permissioned IAM roles, or it's open ports, poorly configured Cloud Run instances. It's vulnerabilities that are found within inside images, Docker images or container images that are running on various workloads. All of those insights then are fed into Active Assist. Obviously, if you turn up the dial and go to Security Command Center Premium, then you'll get more insights about how the security posture on your cloud security posture looks like. And then all of those insights then are really fed into the Active Assist to give you the high-level insights into what's happening inside your environment without having to engage, with a security expert to understand how to configure the Security Command Center. So, really transition on how Active Assist enhances security directly. So security is obviously critical with inside your cloud operations. I heard a factoid or a fact yesterday. The AWS has seen a 7x increase in the daily attacks that they're feeling against the cloud platform. So that's going from 100 million a day to 750 million hacking attempts a day. So there's a huge, and that's predicated because of the advent of AI and generative AI models being ubiquitous. More people, script kiddies, have access to the tools necessary to be a hacker, right? To build a malicious script that can go to the various websites and scrape data and find API keys that are on GitHub, right? It's more accessible to a lot more people. So we're seeing a huge increase in the volume of attempts upon not just hyperscalers but infrastructure across the internet. So yeah, it's really important that we have a clear understanding of what our security posture is, and obviously Active Assist is step one in this, is democratizing and socializing the information about infrastructure and resources that are being governed within inside your environment. And it lays the foundation of starting the conversation of how security should be shifted left, and it should be in every conversation we're having around infrastructure and AI and data and analytics. How do we secure the information, the data, the workflow, the supply chain? Active Assist is step one. Is just giving people the tools to understand the potential impact of these changes and the first line of defense when it comes to alerting. When we talk about the 750 million attempts a day on hyperscalers, we're really looking at using something like the Security Command Center Premium, where we're plugged into everything, and we have really stringent policies that sit around security governance and how we manage all of this. Active Assist is really the cream that comes on top of that, is how to get that information to the masses. And again, it's through recommendations, right? It's recommending changes to policies, changes to configuration, highlighting potential issues that are found within various configurations, whether they're production workloads or not. And really, tightening the permissions across the your cloud workloads and your cloud accounts. It's really important that we have an understanding of the impact that our changes as developers and cloud engineers are making, and an understanding that the impact of one change does have a security effect on other things. Right? Is maybe taking one recommendation will have a negative effect on another, but with Active Assist, because everything's done automatically in the background, those things will bubble back up, and we can see that a change has been made to that has an impact on those elements. Okay, so we've looked at the recommendations hub and in context recommendations. We've talked a little bit about how security insights are being pulled through into Active Assist to provide the first line of socializing information and sort of democratizing the information that exists within inside an account. I think what most people like to do when it comes to volumes of data and information, and certainly I do, is be able to get direct access to this information. So this is where the recommendations API really steps into the foray, and to be able to take the insights that are within inside recommendation API, Active Assist, and Google at large, right, and be able to use those as data-driven, to be able to use that information to make data-driven decisions. So, this API really provides a programmatic access to the recommendations, making it an essential tool for optimizing for your cloud environments. Having a daily summary that's posted to a dashboard, a custom dashboard internally, or an email that goes out to stakeholders that says, here's the latest recommendations. That's one use case, but there are many that we can sort of explore. Allows for better distribution of this information as opposed to just being in one single place that you have to go and search for. So, like any API, you'd expect some of the key capabilities, obviously, being able to fetch the recommendations. The API does identify opportunities to optimize cloud resources, whether it's cost, security, or performance. And we can fit various requests to fit the needs of those who are consuming the information. If you're a developer or a cloud engineer, infrastructure manager, someone who's looking after the running of the infrastructure, then you're going to want much more granular information about the recommendations that are being made, the insights that are being drawn from those recommendations, and ultimately the impact that those changes are going to have. Whereas a C-level exec or maybe someone in finance is really going to want to understand what does the what's the financial impact of any changes that are being made, and it's really that reporting mechanism that can be offered through the API, and then making it a more of an interactive process of being able to change the way that we consume this data and build it into existing workloads. We can get detailed insights and go deeper into the operational insights around what's being delivered. We can have it direct in our applications. We have a tool internally that does face externally. So internally it's Nitro and externally it's Carbon. And we're able to gather these insights and provide them to our customers that use these tools. So they can see their cost optimization FinOps dashboard that shows them their monthly spend, but they can also see, okay, you've got a handful of recommendations that can bring that cost down. Do you want to talk to us about how we implement those? That's just one example of how you can pull this information out programmatically and display it somewhere else to provide even more value. There's also, we can export via the API. There's a BigQuery, as there always is. There's a BigQuery integration to all of the ActiveAssist stuff. So we can pump it all to BigQuery. We can have it. We can build our own models against it. We can load it into Looker and have dashboards that provide us insights to various stakeholders internally and externally. So there was always the option of landing it with inside an analytics platform like BigQuery. Okay, I'm getting the red light, so I'll carry on. So the reason for introducing API there is the synergy between Security Center insights and the API recommendations. So being able to allow CC, the Security Command Center, to identify security threats within inside the environment, and then the recommendations API to automate the application of the fixes. So using it as the funnel for making changes. ActiveAssist is the one that identifies the problem. We flag this to, Security Command Center is the mechanism for identifying the issue. ActiveAssist reports that issue as an alert, and then we can use the API to implement an integration into custom workflows. Whether that's raising a pull request against the configuration file or it's sending a Jira request to a service desk, so that we can accelerate the changes that are being made, and also, like I say, democratize that information across the business. So looking a little deeper into the recommendation API and the power that the ActiveAssist really enables with programmatic access to optimize these recommendations. Obviously, we can pull through all of those categories. We can provide the insights to explain the reasoning behind the recommendations, and then we can automate the application of them. And there's some really practical applications about baking them into CI workflows or baking them into commit processes, right? Where you're validating that there aren't existing issues that will be affected by a given change, and providing more insights to the changes that are coming into the system to say, well, okay, there's already an existing security vulnerability or a cost problem with inside this account. Let's look at how we optimize, for the next iteration. And as I say, the recommendation API really does offer unmatched flexibility and power. If you can think of it, you can build it. And I've tried to create a bit of a demo to kind of spark the imagination of the listeners. So we'll get onto that in a second. Okay. So the last thing is just to kind of reiterate, some of the cost optimization strategies that we've talked about. Being able to right size VMs, be able to implement the changes that are being recommended for Cloud SQL, having some of those committed use discounts bubbling up into an automatic workflow that can be approved or even passed to a virtual agent to make a decision or at least drive the decision-making process. by summarizing the information that's coming out and making a clear deliverable on what needs to be done to mitigate whether it's a high priority problem or it just needs to be looked at in the next change cycle. There are really a couple of ways that we can kind of wire all this together and use it in a really powerful way. Obviously, for small organizations that aren't looking to automate and to bake their own process, you've got the recommendations API and you've got the recommendations hub and the in context recommendations. And then if you want to tinker around and build stuff, then you have the API as ever. And I'll just show a small demo of that now. Those of you who'd like to see it. So what I will do is I will share this. Can we see my fast API? Just a thumbs up. Fine, cool, excellent. So we should have a picture, but it's not. We don't have that. So as everybody is right now, and we are pushed for time, but as everybody is right now, they're baking AI into everything. So we baked AI into it. So using Google Vertex AI and their version of LangChain, what we're able to do is make natural language requests essentially to our recommendations. So taking the API and saying, tell me for the example here, obviously, bless the demo gods, but for the example is show me the security recommendations for a given project. And then instead of just giving you the dry response, which is, make the change, this is the impact, we can have more of a conversational summary of what that might look like. And it obviously often helps to get senior buy-in when you're talking to maybe like a non-technical stakeholder that needs to approve a change. So all it is a wrapper API that sits in between Gemini and the recommendations API. It goes into a little bit more about it dynamically generates the API spec, but that's for a different webinar. But essentially, you can make a request for a given recommendation, in this case, security, and then it will go fetch the spec to figure out how it talks to recommendations API, and it will go and fetch the information for the given request, and then that summarizes it then as a response. Now, I obviously have it piping out to a flat HTML file as well, just so you get some nice readability. You can just hit refresh on that, and that'll regenerate. And then we'll have a given recommendation for the security insights. So for this one, we have an over-permissioned servers account. We outline the impact that might have, a summary of what needs to be done, and then some of the insights of the change. And that's a really simple use case where we're reaching out to the API. We're having Gemini summarize that information, not just from a perspective of what it understands as part of the large language model. It really has an understanding of the API and the information that's in there, and then giving us a meaningful response. There's that one. And then in terms of the UI, so I obviously showed you a screenshot. This is an account that I'm allowed to kind of click around in. So this is the recommendations hub and what you'd expect to see from insights that are coming from a given account. This is on a project level. You can go folder and an organizational level, and you'll get the insights for those if you have permissions to. So, we have the dashboard. We have all recommendations that feed into a single filterable dashboard. And then you can copy link so that you can share it out to a colleague for a second opinion. And then we break down all of the 6 areas: security, performance, reliability, manageability, sustainability, and obviously cost at the start. And like I said, everything can be exported to BigQuery these days. So you can funnel all of these results into BigQuery and generate your own dashboards as needed. Okay. So really just a sort of a recap then of, some of the potential for using the recommendations API and some of the security insights that are coming in. So obviously by integrating security insights and the security recommendations that are coming out of Active Assist, we can create workflows that leverage cloud functions or existing cloud workflows to automate the implementation of these recommendations so that it's very zero touch, or at least light touch, when it comes to enforcing particular changes. Obviously, it's always good to have a human in the loop. And, these workflows could take you all the way up to creating the PR for your continuous delivery pipeline, and then a human will go through and approve those changes. But a really good, I'll leave you on this one as well before we talk about some of the use cases that we've seen. But a really good way to use Active Assist is when you're building policies. So we're talking about organizational policies in this slide, but policies in general, we're talking about firewall policies, or we're talking about IAM policies, or organizational policies that, enforce how users communicate inside the projects. Because Active Assist has a better understanding of what is happening across your cloud accounts, it can provide better recommendations and give you better insights into the impact those changes might have. So some of the best practices, obviously, regular review of the findings, prioritize actions based upon urgency and impact, and then implement automation where appropriate. I am getting the red light, so I will.
You are, unfortunately.
We'll jump to Q&A, and we'll take that for the next 10 minutes.
Yeah, we're just going to jump in and say use cases. We're more than happy to share at the end. We can dive into real life use cases and explore your own. So yeah, we'll make sure that you have the recording and that we can sort of go from there. So apologies that we've missed one slide, but we will definitely recap. Brian?
Yes, thank you, Morgan. Thank you, Alex. I have 4 questions actually by the looks of it. So without further ado, first question is, when you start using Active Assist, does it take a period of time to learn your usage and come up with suggestions?
Yes, it does. So Active Assist doesn't cover sort of new projects. There's I forget the exact time, but it's 48 to 72 hours where new projects need to be established, workloads need to be running. You need to have a history of what resources are running in order to understand what they're predicted to use in the future. And obviously, the more data you have, the better.
Good, thank you. And a question from Bas is, when committing to a CUD for a VM, does it only count for that specific VM, or can it transfer to another VM once the original has stopped? And just in brackets, if that VM has the exact same specs.
So, and Alex, you can keep me honest here, and Brian as well, but the CUDs are SKU aligned. So they would be usage with inside compute VMs, not a specific VM that you've committed to. And then you can extend that as well to project wide. So if you've got CUDs at an organizational level, then they apply to all projects.
Yeah, just for sanity on that one. If you want to delve into that further, Bas, then obviously please do reach out, and we can have our support team look into CUDs for you.
Or you can use Active Assist.
Oh, you can use Active Assist.
Thank you, guys. And next question from Paul is, can you send the SCC recommendations as a log source into your SIEM to be analyzed by the SOC?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of sending it to Active Assist, there's no syncs from Security Center to Active Assist that you would need to manage. But to answer the more direct question of can you get stuff into the SOC from SCC, yes.
And sorry, we've got two more questions. Question on Active Assist again. So how does Active Assist correlate recommendations across multiple services like GCS, BigQuery, and Vertex AI? And are the insights holistic or service specific?
So from my experience, they're service specific. So we are looking at a given service using specific resources, and you're getting recommendations based upon that service's usage. Having the correlation between between different services, it's not there yet. But I see what you mean. So if you have like a long-running query, then optimizing the query is one thing, but having the underlying infrastructure.
And the last one isn't actually a question, Morgan. It looks like you have a fan in the audience from a Yannick who says, not a real question, but just to say that Morgan is the best.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
We have a great relationship with our customers.
Yes, great statement. But that is all the questions, guys. Thank you very, very much. I shall now hand back over to the WALT Labs team to close with any closing remarks.
Thanks. Morgan, can you just quickly
That's
jump on
me.
the next slide?
Yeah, I can.
Again, I'm very proud of my QR code. So if you do want to follow up and you want to get involved and have a conversation to see how WALT Labs and how specific GCP technologies can help you, whether that's cost saving, whether it is scale, anything like that, please let us know. Reach out to myself or anyone from the WALT Labs team. It's non-obligation. We're here to support. So yeah, look forward to hopefully speaking to some of you very soon. From my side, that's everything. It's been a pleasure to see you all today and to be able to present to you, and hopefully there's many more to come. So yeah, that's it from me. I think we've covered our questions. Morgan, do you want to say goodbyes?
Just thank you for listening. Appreciate everybody taking the time. And yeah, to reiterate what Alex said, please follow up, let's have a conversation. There's no obligation to commit to anything, and I love the chat. So if you've got a cool use case that we can help you with, then please get in touch.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Take care.
Thanks all.